Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening for our Cumberland Family Academy workshop. Cumberland Family Academy is a Cumberland County Schools initiative. The Cumberland Family Academy is committed to enriching the lives of children by bringing parents, guardians, and schools closer together as equal partners. When families have high expectations for children and encourage them to work hard, they support and promote a child's academic, social, and emotional well being. The purpose of the Family Academy program is to provide families with the necessary tools to support the success of their child's education.
Gracias por estar con nosotros en el taller de la Academia Familiar de Cumberland. La Academia Familiar de Cumberland es una iniciativa del condado, las escuelas del condado de Cumberland. La Academia Familiar de Cumberland está comprometida en enriquecer la vida de los niños mediante la unión de los padres, los guardianes y las escuelas cerca como una alianza. Cuando las familias tienen expectativas altas para los niños, esto los motiva a trabajar duro. Ellos apoyan y promueven el bienestar académico y social y emocional del niño. El propósito del programa de la Academia Familiar es de proveer a las familias con las herramientas necesarias para apoyar el éxito educativo de su niño.
This evening, our workshop presenters are Wanda Wesley and Patricia Eaton from our Cumberland County Schools Pre-K department for our introduction to Parent Cafe, Parents Supporting Parents. Just a few details before we begin. We are asking for families to please list their name and the school their child is from in the chat box, or to use the link in the chat box to sign in. If you have children at multiple schools, please feel free to list all schools. If you are not familiar with Zoom, just run your mouse across the bottom of your screen and you should see options for camera, mute, and in the middle of the Zoom toolbar, you will see the chat feature. Please click the chat feature to enter your information in your child's school using the link in the chat. You will also be able to enter any questions you may have in the chat as well. We will also provide translation services for our Cumberland Family Academy sessions in Spanish. Our Spanish translator is Dabna Kozlavi. Did I pronounce that correctly, Dabna?
Consalvi.
Perfect. Thank you. Dabna is present to provide translation services if needed. If you would like the support of Dabna tonight, please raise your hand or let us know in the chat so that we will be able to provide any services that you need. Again, thank you.
Esta tarde nuestras presentadoras serán Wanda Wesley y Patricia Eaton del Departamento de Prekinder de las Escuelas del Condado de Cumberland. Y estarán aquí para la presentación del Café para Padres, Padres Apoyando a Padres. Unos cuantos detalles antes de comenzar. Le pedimos a las familias que por favor registren su nombre y el nombre de la escuela del niño en el chat, ya que usaremos este chat como la hoja de asistencia. Si usted tiene niños en varias escuelas, por favor, anote todas las escuelas. Si no está familiarizado con el Zoom, mueva el mouse a través de la pantalla y verá las opciones para la cámara, el mute, que sería para silenciar el audio. En el medio de la barra del Zoom, usted encontrará el chat. Por favor, seleccione el chat para entrar la información suya y de la escuela de su niño. Usted también podrá anotar preguntas en el chat. Proveemos servicios de interpretación en español. Con esta servidora, mi nombre es Dama Consalvi. Si usted necesita servicios de traducción en español, puede levantar la mano. Gracias.
We will mute all guests during our workshop tonight, but if you have any questions, please feel free to list it in the chat box as we will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. We are recording tonight's workshop, so it will be able to be viewed later on our social media sites. Please feel free to turn your camera off if you desire. If you choose to leave your camera on, we kindly ask that you be mindful of what can be seen in your background, ensuring that it is family friendly while participating in this session. At the end of tonight's session, we will share a brief session evaluation for you to complete in the chat box, or you may use our new QR code that will be placed on the screen. Please complete the sign-in link and the session evaluation for your chance to receive a door prize. Our door prize for tonight is a Chick-fil-A gift card. Again, thank you for joining us, and we will turn it over to our presenters from our pre-K department. At this time, I do not see anyone with Spanish translation services, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. We are so excited to be with you tonight to help you get an overview of our Parent Cafe. As we welcome you, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Be Strong Families. First of all, again, my name is Patricia. I'm one of the hostesses. Patricia Eaton, our other hostess is
Wanda Wesley.
So, sorry, I forgot to introduce for us to get introduced, but Be Strong Families came out of Chicago, Illinois. Years back, early 2000s, parents came to them and asked them to help them strengthen their community by strengthening families. And so Be Strong Families said, sure, we need to teach parents about the 5 protective factors and then develop parent leaders. That's how families and communities are strengthened. And so what happened after that was that in 2018, Cumberland County also said it's about time we did other things, additional things to help strengthen our communities. So thanks to the Partnership for Children, we were able to, and other agencies in Cumberland, several of us received training on parent cafes and how to take them out to the community. And so since 2018, we have been doing parent cafes pretty much 3, 4, or 5 times a year, and we'll go anywhere to do them. We're just excited to be able to share this presentation with you so you can see the overview tonight. The next page would be our objectives. Really simple. We want you to understand the purpose and the structure of how a parent cafe works. It is really easy and it is so wonderful because it's peer-to-peer. So we're lifting up each other. To become familiar with those 5 protective factors that Be Strong Families wanted to use to strengthen families, to get excited when you have an opportunity to attend a parent cafe, to consider once you attend one, or even before you attend one, that after you participate, you will want to be a parent leader. And we'll let you know how easy that can be. Then to share these resources with other parents and other agencies you may be involved with, so they too will want to learn more and have a parent cafe. Finally, will be the closing, and then we'll have questions that start throughout the presentation developing your question list so you can ask at the end in the chat, or even during the presentation, put them in the chat and we'll address them at the end.
Great. Now the question, what is a parent cafe? When you think of cafe, you think of sitting down at a nice table, eating and enjoying your time. And that's kind of what our parent cafe is all about. Now, because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to do the in-person cafes, but we still try to have the atmosphere as one that's engaging when we do them virtual. So the parent cafe is arranged with small tables and maybe 4 or 5 people at a table. And it's a peer-to-peer conversation. You're talking to other parents at the table. And you have several rounds that you go through. And we're going to go through all of that today. But we'll show you how, at the end, what we really want to do is empower parents to be the leaders that they are in their families and in the community. And this is through meaningful conversation. So that's kind of what a parent cafe is in a nutshell. But we're going to go through the different parts of it so that you'll get to see what it's really like. You know how when you see something, it's not the same until you actually experience it. So we want to give you enough tonight so that when we do offer parent cafes, that you'll sign up for them. So the Be Strong Families has a certain format that we have to follow when we present our parent cafes. And before you'll see the listing of how we normally run our cafes. We start with a welcome. We want everybody to feel welcome. And we usually do that with music as they come in the room. We have the room decorated and our theme out there. We have agreements. We're going to show you what those parent cafe agreements are as we go through this presentation. Then we have an introduction to the theme. Every cafe has a theme. I guess tonight, Patricia, our theme, not peach, rose-colored shirts. But anyway, we usually have a theme for our parent cafe, and that gets the families excited about it. Then there's a part of the cafe that's the icebreaker. It's considered, or we call it the one-on-one. We'll go into details about that. And then there's a one-on-one debrief. Whatever we do, we discuss what we've done and we move on to the next part. Then the meat of the parent cafe are the cafe conversations. And most cafes, you have 2 to 3 rounds of conversations. And we'll go into that a little bit as well. After the conversations, we'll talk about what happened during the cafe conversations. We'll do a debrief and we'll capture everybody's thoughts and opinions about what happened. And then the next part is the commitment card or letter. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. One word closing, evaluations, and then the next steps. So this is the outline for a typical parent cafe, regardless if it's virtual or in person. We always stick to that guideline. So let's kind of roll through this a little bit and give you a little bit more information on the different parts.
So the parent cafe usually has a parent cafe team. The hostesses or co-hosts, such as Wanda and myself, who are facilitators, who just make sure that the program runs as it should and that everyone gets to participate and that we stick to our agreements, just to help the flow of the evening or the day. Then we have room host when we're doing it virtually, and table host when we meet face to face. That person sits at the table with that small group of people and helps facilitate that, making sure the agreements are followed through, everybody gets to participate, encouraging, guiding. And those are the parents who've come to previous cafes and now have become parent leaders. So that'll be you the next time we have one. And then we also have a resource person at the team, the person you can contact in case you have a question you don't feel comfortable sharing with everybody. You just need to share it with one person. And that when we have the cafe, we let you know ahead of time. In case you have something that you need to discuss privately, contact either Wanda, myself, whoever it may be. So that makes up your parent cafe team. When we have a parent cafe, we like to do a theme, as Wanda mentioned. This was one of the first ones we did. It was a sports theme. Everybody was so excited. We had moms, we had dads, we had people dressed up in their favorite sports shirts. We had people with their caps. Some came with their little pom-poms. It was just a night, and that room was even fuller than that. We had a wonderful evening. And the wonderful thing is when you're here, you are a parent or a family member. You're not a teacher. You're not a doctor. You're not an Army sergeant. You are a parent coming to share with other parents and get to know one another and build a strong community. The next parent cafe we had was the holiday theme. You can't tell really well, but Miss Wanda was dressed as an elf that day. So we had a great time. And what you also haven't seen in any of these pictures is not only do we have the fellowship, but we also have food. So we get to enjoy a nice little snack as we converse with everybody, just as if we were in a real cafe. But another parent cafe we had was the family night, where family members all came together to meet so they could share. And when we do that, we make sure everybody gets to meet people they don't know too. So when we say family night, yes, because at the end you will be family. What's the next one? Let's see. Now we come to the parent agreement part. This is the part that we use so that we can present a non-judgmental, safe environment for you to communicate in. You want to be around people you know are going to accept whatever you say without judgment. So these are the things we are going to try to agree to tonight. We're going to speak from our own experiences. When it's your chance to speak, we want to hear what you have to say. What's happened to you? How has life changed for you? What are the ups and downs per se? Not what happened to your neighbor, or your friend, or your sister, but to you. We listen attentively. This one must be the hardest one. You cannot interrupt. You got to, when you're listening, when you're in the one-on-one or when you're at the table, the speaker is the only one who speaks. No judgments, positive or negative. That's hard too. You may want to nod your head, you may smile, but no judgment. We don't give advice. Even when it's our turn to talk, we cannot give advice. What happens at the cafe stays at the cafe. So when you're with your one-on-one or you're sitting at the table with those folks and they're telling something of their life history, we keep that here at the cafe. We don't share it with anybody else. And then we want everyone's full presence. When we're at a cafe, phones are put away. And if it's virtual, then we ask that you put everything else away and just focus on the interaction with your peers. And so, do we all agree to this? Yes. And we do that throughout the whole evening, no matter what section of the evening we're in or the afternoon, whatever it may be.
Now, as we stated earlier, the Parent Cafe is built upon the protective factors. Every aspect of the Parent Cafe takes into consideration protective factors that keep families strong. And there are 5 protective factors that we want to encourage you to listen to, appreciate, internalize, and use it as you work your way through the process. And the first one is parental resilience. In other words, being strong and flexible. We know life happens, we know that things happen, but how can we be strong and flexible in spite of what's going on in our lives? The second protective factor is relationships, social connections. Parents need friends. People need friends. Sometimes we want to go through things alone and we think that we can handle them alone, but we find out that connections matter. Parents need friends. The third protective factor that we look at and discuss is knowledge, and more specifically, knowledge of parenting and child development. In other words, being a great parent is part natural and part learned. And I think we were so excited about the Parent Cafes because Patricia and I, we work with preschool families. And it's so important for us to start our children off knowing what's expected of them at different levels of development. So the Parent Cafe just feeds into what we think is so important as a parent of a young child. But any age child will benefit from these. The fourth one, support. Everybody needs help sometimes. And when we are talking about support, we're actually talking more along the lines of concrete support in times of need. Do you need additional funds because maybe something happened and you weren't able to pay your rent this month or your mortgage this month? So concrete support. Do you need additional food? Do you know the resources that are available in your community? And then the fifth one was communication. And this one is social and emotional competence of children. Parents need to help their children to communicate. Problem solving. That's an example of the kind of communication you can help teach your young child. Conflict resolution, and that's at any age actually. And one that's really important that we're all interested in is that social emotional learning. How do we regulate our feelings so that we can interact with others? And as a parent, we want to be able to help our children communicate how they're feeling, how they can better interact with their classmates and their teachers and their friends. And we want to also be able to model and nurture social and emotional competence for our children. So these are the 5 protective factors that the Parent Cafe is built upon. Now, we've talked about a theme. We've had all kinds of great themes. We decided our theme tonight would be resilient and strong parents leading the way, because you've probably never realized how strong and how much of a leader you were or are capable of being until you experienced the last 18 months or so. You probably have done some things and led your family in ways you never thought you had the strength to do. You bounced back. We're in school. We're getting ready. We're full into our great comeback. And it's all because of what you've done. So we appreciate you. We appreciate us, parents. So we put that down as one of the topics, resilience and communication. So those are our 2 themes for tonight, resilience and communication.
So one of the fun aspects of the Parent Cafe is the one-on-one. We randomly, if we were meeting face-to-face, we randomly have people selected in pairs. Then they go to a corner where they can speak privately for about 5 minutes. However, here's the catch. They decide who's going to speak first. One of them speaks for the first 2.5 minutes. The other one cannot interrupt. They have to stick with the agreements we talked about earlier. And they have questions they know they have to answer. At the end, the facilitator or the hostess will remind them it's time to switch. And for the last 2.5 minutes, that person then goes ahead and answers the questions without any interruptions from the first person. So what kind of things do they discuss? Easy peasy. All you have to do is answer who you are, who is in your family, and then you have to think about a time in the past when you faced something challenging, but you came through it successfully and are now, can't see the rest of it. So what's happening? What part are you grateful for? And this is when you get to really know the other person. And we usually, it's not only a random selection of the duo, but it's also, we try to encourage, if you came with someone, not to pick that person. Let it be someone else. Meet someone new. Be daring and share with someone. But again, following the agreements, not to interrupt, to listen attentively, and absolutely what they say is private and stays there. Okay, so then after the one-on-one, we have the debrief after the 5 minutes. That's when you get to discuss, how was that for you? How did it feel? Was it difficult for you to sit there and listen without interruption? Was it easy to talk to without being interrupted, or even doing it yourself? Because then you expect people as you're talking to ask questions, and then you sit there realizing they can't say anything. And without telling very specific facts about what the person told you, share something about what you learned about them. They live in the same neighborhood you do, or they came from a different side of the country than you did, something that fascinated you about the conversation. And what did you learn about yourself? Not only what did you learn by having to sit there and listen, but what came through to you from the experience of listening to someone else and then sharing your story? What really was what we're going to call later that aha moment during that conversation?
Now, the one-on-one works really well as an icebreaker for what's about to happen during a parent cafe. So what we're going to do from there, once we do the icebreaker, we go into our cafe conversation. And the topics come from parent cafe cards. Excuse me. They come from parent cafe cards, and cards are in a box. Each card has one of the protective factors listed on it: resilience, relationships, knowledge, support, and communication. And what we do is we'll put maybe 4 cards at a table. And as a group, the group will sit together, they will look at the cards, and they will decide which one of those topics they want to discuss. And so what we're going to do, we'll move on to the next slide. We've decided our 2 topics were going to be resilience. So we'll pick a card dealing with resilience. Next slide. We've already gone as though we had those cards, and we've pulled all the topics that were on resilience. So these are some examples of the cards or the topics that the parents will get to choose from. And with the parent host, the table host, which is a parent, actually everyone's a parent in this process. Some examples, and some of the topics are rather deep, and some of them are surface topics, but they all get the conversation going. And as a group, we decide, how many of you want to do this one? We'll ask everybody, we'll read all the topics, and as a group, they'll decide which one they'd like to start talking about. And just delve in, remembering what is said here stays here. We're listening, and we did the one-on-one to try to help us be better listeners, and so that other people can be heard. And just some examples, so I'll read these topics. What are you willing to do or stop doing for the sake of your children? How are you currently strengthening your weaknesses? Now, what parts of your life do you protect your child or children from? And why do you do that? What are some negative ways to deal with stress? And how can you shift to more positive ways? And how can you turn a problem into an opportunity and give an example? So what will happen is a group will start discussing those. There are no wrong answers. There are no right answers. You're speaking from your own experience. And what's so powerful about that is when you're speaking, you may be giving someone else some ideas and some answers or some options or solutions, or even enlightening them on something that they're doing. They may be a better way to do it. So it's very, very deep discussions. We usually do each round for at least 15 minutes. And Patricia was sharing the different parts or the different team members of a parent cafe. Another important person in the cafe is the timekeeper, and that job is usually given to the person, whoever the table host is. And they'll keep time so that we'll be able to get through everything that we have planned in this very fun and informative packed session, and then have enough time to go through all the processes of the parent cafe. Next slide. Our next topic, our next round, if we were actually doing it, again, today we're just giving you an overview or an intro, is communication. The topics that we've looked in for communications, again, we go through those cards. One thing I forgot to share, we move from table to table. So if you're at the first table within one group, you may move to a different table. Maybe two of those people might go with you, or maybe you'll be with all new people. So each time the table host will introduce everybody again, so we'll get to know each other. The next, excuse me, I hate to say this, but a gnat flew in my throat. How well do you know your children or your children's friends? What kinds of things can you do with a boy that you can't do with a girl, and why? How much do you share with your child about your childhood? And how do you strengthen your relationship with your children, independent of your relationship with their mother or father? And finally, what are you teaching children about when to fight and when to walk away? Now, these are just a few topics, but these are deep conversations. And as we shared, we have Parent Cafe cards. So this is just a small inkling of the sample that we have to choose from.
One of the things too that we had the pleasure of doing was a dad's parent cafe, where the cards also are specific to dads. And so that was wonderful too, because they need to be just as involved. So it's an opportunity for them to be able to share and express the same things they're going to that maybe we as women wouldn't understand. So that is wonderful. But after we do the communication and the group, we want to harvest or debrief. So we always say, what were your light bulb or aha moments during this break room conversation? For a lot of us, it's just the fact of, gee, we were able to keep quiet and not interrupt. For some of us, just the pleasure of knowing that there's other people who understand what we're going through, whether it's a positive or negative situation, there's other people that understand and who are willing to seek help. So why not me? Based on the conversation you had around resilience or communication, the protective factors, what came up for you? Not only is that a light bulb or an aha moment, but you got an idea. You thought of a resource you could go to. You have now resources you can go to. You didn't know that before, but hey, these people here at the cafe may be able to help me and direct me to the right group or agency or person. So it becomes a very wonderful opportunity for everyone to be able to see that, yeah, life is happening. It's been tough, but we've gotten through it. We're strong enough to get through it because we're together now. We have other people to lean on. It goes back to when Wanda was sharing the protective fathers factors, the fact that you need friends, you need people you can reach out to in time of need, or even just to bounce great ideas off of.
Okay, so after we've gone through all the different steps of the cafe, we get to a part that I find so much fun. This is where you make a commitment to yourself. We pass out, we have the cards, beautiful little cards, and on the cards you will say, I commit to taking care of myself by. And whatever it is you think that you might need to pay more attention to, it could be something as simple as getting more rest or more sleep, or it could be taking time to do fun things for myself. Whatever it is, you're given that opportunity to write that down. And when you write things down, they become more memorable. They stick, you remember them better. And what's so neat about the Parent Cafe, we collect those cards once the individuals fill them out. And we make sure that they self-address them, put their address on them. And in a few weeks, we mail them to them. And I know when I went to my first Parent Cafe as a participant, and I got a card in the mail, and I'm like, that looks like my handwriting. I couldn't even remember that I had created that. But once I opened it, it all came back to me. And with anything that we're trying to learn, whenever we can get that reminder, and in such a sweet way, it's just a really powerful part of the process. So the commitment card is something that we do for all of our Parent Cafes.
And again, going back to the debrief, so to speak, then we go and ask the participants to give us one word to describe your experience during the entire cafe. What would it be? It is wonderful because we come up, no matter how many cafes we do, people come up with the same one word because that's how they feel strengthened, they feel empowered. And so it's always a positive experience to share that one word and explain why it's important to you. And they absolutely, I think this is one of our favorite parts too. They're all my favorite parts. So, but the one word, I know for me, it's always how similar we are. We're so much more alike than we are different as a community. So it's a wonderful opportunity for you to share that with one another and to network. Sometimes at the end of a cafe, we have people sharing phone numbers. Hey,
Oh, yes.
and they all different ages. I can remember one time when we had a young mother and a grandmother who were going through the same life experiences without knowing. And they wanted to communicate. They wanted to support one another through life experiences. So this is one way to do it.
And then a part of the Be Strong Families process is that we always do an evaluation at the end of the sessions. And the evaluations are done online. We have an opportunity for the families to do them online, whether we're doing the workshops or the sessions virtually or in person, we do this. And that gives the company information on what we can improve upon, and also helps us to do better and make it more, meet the needs of the families that we're serving as we go through the process. So the evaluations for the Be Strong Families Parent Cafes are very important. And we just encourage all of our families to complete those when they're participating.
And Wanda, may I say one more thing before we
Sure.
close? At one of the parent cafes, we were blessed enough also to not only have somebody who came for the first time and continued as a parent leader, but then she went back to her school to become a parent leader. She was so empowered and felt so much stronger that she went to her school to be able to participate with a PTA or whatever they needed her to, and to be a voice for her community at that school.
Thank you. And we never leave without talking about what's going to happen next, because it's an ongoing process. And what we love is for people to come to the next parent cafe, bring a friend and come to the next parent cafe. So we give them the opportunity, our participants, the opportunity to contact us if they want to be a part of the process. And sometimes all they want to do is sit at the table and be a participant, and that is fine. We're encouraging parents to actually take the training, become a parent, a host. But if that's not what they're interested in, if they want to be a table host, we can train them for that. All you have to do is just to participate in at least one parent cafe, be it face-to-face or virtual. And then we let them know when our next one is scheduled. We haven't scheduled one at this time, but we will be scheduling them soon, and we'll make sure that you get the information so in case you're interested. But our emails are there. As Patricia shared at the beginning, we are so happy to go out into the community and to share this resource. And just a final note I'd like to share is that we're part of a team in Cumberland County that's called SOAR. And SOAR stands for Strengths in Overcoming Adversity Through Resiliency. And the team is made up from all types of people, from the health department from the Child Advocacy Center, from the Partnership for Children, DSS, parents, community members, all different types of people come together to try to better our community, one family at a time. So we are excited about kicking this year off again, getting really into our parent cafes. We have a SOAR committee meeting coming up in October, and we'll have that information if anybody wants to come and join us. And just thank you so much for taking your time tonight to listen to what we have to share. Again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Once you actually participate in a parent cafe, again, be it face-to-face or virtual, you will want to come back, you will want to bring a friend, and you will want to be a part of our team. We're hopeful that you'll do that. So that's kind of where we are tonight. We hope we have questions. We're ready and happy to answer any that we have. Let us know.
I do not see any questions in the chat. A variety of great comments for you, Wanda and Patricia. Thank you so much for sharing. Thanks for this information, and they love the cafe format. And again, thank you all for sharing. And this support is extremely important for one of our parents in our chat tonight. So thank you so much for sharing your introduction to Parent Cafe.
Thank you.
So before we wrap up tonight, again, thank you all for joining us for our Cumberland Family Academy workshop. If you look on your screen now, you see a QR code. So if you are using your cell phone, you can use the QR code to complete our survey. If you complete the survey and sign in, your name will be entered for our door prize, which is a Chick-fil-A gift card tonight. The encore of this session will be aired on our Cumberland County Schools Facebook and YouTube pages on Tuesday, September the 14th at 6 p.m. Please join us for our next session on Thursday, September the 16th, Motivating the Unmotivated Child at 6 p.m. Registration is currently open. Thank you again for joining us, and have a good evening.